What if the drink you thought was comforting your stress was actually the very thing holding your life hostage? What if bourbon's smooth burn has a story of its own, one that mirrors your struggles, your resilience, and ultimately, your freedom? Because behind every glass of bourbon is a history older than the United States itself, a production process rooted in tradition, and a scientific truth about how it rewires your brain and body, especially when it becomes a regular part of your life. And if you're on a recovery journey right now, or even just questioning your relationship with alcohol, understanding bourbon's past may be the catalyst that changes your future. Long before bourbon became a shelf staple or a symbol of American spirit craftsmanship, it began with something simple: necessity. In the late 1700s, settlers on the American frontier, many of them Scots, Irish, and English, found themselves surrounded not by barley but by corn. Corn was cheaper, grew effortlessly in Kentucky soil, and could be stored for long periods if it was distilled. Alcohol back then wasn't a luxury, it was currency. It was medicine. It was a solution to spoilage and a way to preserve calories in harsh living conditions. The name bourbon likely traces back to Bourbon County, Kentucky, once an enormous frontier region. Barrels shipped down the Ohio and Mississippi rivers were marked bourbon, and their journey through humid southern climates gave them that unmistakable dark, sweet, oaky character we now associate with the drink. The aging process became a discovery, not a deliberate invention. Settlers realized that charred oak barrels, often used to remove unpleasant flavors in reused containers, actually transformed the raw spirit into something rich, complex, and warm. By the 1800s, bourbon evolved from a necessity into an art form. The era of legends began. Names like Elijah Craig, Jacob Beam, and Evan Williams started emerging, some grounded in fact, others wrapped in myth. Whether or not they were the sole inventors, they were part of a culture that shaped bourbon into the drink that helped define early American identity. Bourbon became more than alcohol. It became a piece of heritage, a narrative passed from farm to distillery to bottle. But as bourbon grew, so did overconsumption. Public drunkenness became widespread in the 1800s. Domestic problems rose. Entire communities began recognizing the social damage excessive drinking caused. This gave birth to the temperance movement, eventually leading all the way to Prohibition in 1920, when bourbon production went dark except for a few distilleries with medicinal licenses. And it's ironic, for something originally used as medicine, over time, it became a source of widespread harm. To understand why bourbon affects the body and mind the way it does, it helps to understand how it's made. By law, bourbon must contain at least 51% corn. The remaining grains, rye, wheat, and malted barley, create different flavor expressions. The corn adds sweetness, rye adds spice, and wheat adds softness. The grains are cooked and mixed with water to create a warm, sugary mash. Then yeast is added, and this is when the magic happens. Yeast devours the sugars, producing alcohol and carbon dioxide through fermentation. This creates a distiller's beer that typically sits around 8 to 10% alcohol. Next, the beer is heated in a still. Alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water, allowing distillers to capture and concentrate it. This condensed liquid is usually about 60 to 70% alcohol. And here's the heart of bourbon. It must be aged in new, charred American oak barrels. The charred interior of the barrels caramelizes the natural sugars in the wood. Over years, sometimes decades, the alcohol pulls out these flavors: vanilla, caramel, brown sugar, oak, and spice. Temperature swings push the spirit in and out of the wood, deepening the color and flavor. Finally, bourbon is filtered, diluted to at least 40% alcohol, and bottled. The process is beautiful, it's artistic. It's full of craftsmanship and passion. But despite the care put into making bourbon, its effects on the body and mind are anything but gentle when consumed regularly. Alcohol doesn't just disappear after you swallow it. It becomes a chemical that permeates every organ you have. Your liver takes the first hit. It can process only about one standard drink per hour. Anything beyond that begins to accumulate in your bloodstream. Over time, regular drinking can lead to fatty liver, inflammation, fibrosis, cirrhosis, and an increased risk of liver cancer. The liver is resilient, but it is not invincible. And your cardiovascular system? Contrary to old myths, alcohol does not improve heart health for most people. Newer research strongly suggests any regular drinking increases risks of high blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, weakening of the heart muscle, and stroke. The red wine is healthy idea has been largely debunked. The risks simply outweigh the hype. Let's talk about sleep, the hidden damage. Bourbon may make you fall asleep faster, but it shreds the quality of your sleep cycles. Alcohol reduces REM sleep and deep sleep, hindering the overnight recovery of your brain and body. That's why regular drinkers often wake up exhausted, foggy, or anxious, even after long hours of sleep. Even moderate drinking weakens the immune system, meaning more colds, slower healing, and increased inflammation. It also irritates the stomach lining, disrupts nutrient absorption, and interferes with hormone regulation, including cortisol, testosterone, and estrogen. This is why regular drinkers often experience weight gain, low energy, low libido, and mood swings. Every single organ feels the impact. Now, for the mental health side of things, why bourbon feels like a friend but acts like an enemy. The short-term effect can feel comforting. Warmth, numbness, reduced stress, slowed thoughts. But chemically, the brain is entering survival mode. Alcohol triggers a dopamine release, giving short-lived pleasure. Over time, the brain adapts by reducing its natural dopamine production. This results in less daily joy, reduced motivation, emotional flatness, and a dependence on alcohol just to feel normal. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. While it numbs stress temporarily, it magnifies it afterward. This is why many regular drinkers experience more anxiety, morning dread, irritation, sadness, and racing thoughts. Long-term drinking also impacts short-term memory, focus, decision-making, and impulse control. The brain becomes less efficient at processing information and more vulnerable to emotional triggers. It creates a vicious cycle. Bourbon calms the mind. The body rebounds with extra stress hormones. You feel worse, so you drink again to quiet the discomfort. This cycle strengthens neural pathways that make quitting feel terrifying. But the good news? The brain can heal. Neuroplasticity is real. Recovery is scientifically possible. Your relationship with bourbon may feel deeply personal. Maybe it's tied to escaping stress, celebrating with friends, emotional numbness, loneliness, or coping with trauma. Or maybe it just quietly became a habit, one you never expected to grow roots so deep. But here's what science proves. The body begins healing immediately. Within 72 hours, sleep begins to normalize. Within 2 weeks, mental clarity increases. Within 1 month, liver fat can drop significantly. And within 3 months, mood, energy, and motivation rise dramatically. The brain rebuilds itself. Neurons reconnect. Dopamine regulation improves. Stress hormones stabilize. Emotional strength returns. So many people in recovery say the same thing. I started recognizing the real me again. Because without alcohol constantly hijacking your emotions, your authentic self begins to rise. Your story isn't over, it's pivoting. Just like bourbon evolved from necessity to identity, you can evolve from dependence to resilience. You are not weak, you are not broken. Your brain has simply adapted to something it believed it needed to survive. But you can teach it something new, something healthier, something powerful. Think of bourbon's story. It started with farmers trying to survive. It adapted to its environment. It transformed through pressure, heat, and time. And in the end, it became something complex and unique. Now look at yourself. You've survived pressure. You've adapted to pain. You've been shaped by experiences, good and bad. And right now you're standing at the edge of transformation. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by your next step. Whether you're sober today, trying to cut back, or just exploring your relationship with alcohol, this is your story. This is your turning point. This is your chance to reclaim your life. Here are science-backed tools that can support your healing. First, hydration and nutrition. Alcohol depletes electrolytes and nutrients. Replenishing with water, magnesium, B vitamins, protein, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables accelerates recovery. Next, sleep restoration. Create a routine that helps your brain rebuild normal cycles. Find community support. This could be therapy, support groups, online communities, or trusted friends. Incorporate movement. Exercise releases dopamine naturally, helping rewire the reward system alcohol once dominated. And practice mindfulness and stress reduction through breathing exercises, meditation, journaling, or grounding techniques to help regulate emotions without alcohol. Finally, practice compassion for yourself. Recovery is not linear. There is no shame in struggle. There is only bravery in continuing to try. Bourbon's story is one of transformation. Your story can be too. You are not alone in this. You are not defined by what you drink. You are defined by your resilience, your courage, and your capacity to grow. If you're on this journey, whether it's day 1 or year 10, know this: healing is real. Hope is real. And you deserve a life that feels whole again. If you or someone you know is struggling, resources are available. Please reach out for help. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying the video so far, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And drop a comment below. I love hearing your thoughts. The information shared in this video is for education and support only. It is not medical or therapeutic advice. If you are struggling with addiction or mental health issues, please seek professional help from a licensed healthcare provider or counselor.